It's at the beach. Is very flowing.
I was doing a lot of course I want to sign up for this.
Yeah, because it was too easier to go.
Oliver, a marathon every day for the month of May. We're day 24.
Yeah.
Right. So like the first thing that comes in my mind is, how do you feel today? Like physically, emotionally, mentally. You have like about a week left. How do you feel right now?
Yeah, I mean, there's some pretty massive highs and lows right now. And that's something that even the highs are hard to manage sometimes. Mm-hmm. And everyone talks about runner's high and what that feels like. This obviously has a lot of depth to it in terms of the purpose behind it, as well as just the amount of volume and lead up and everything kind of coming at us all very quickly and rapidly right now. So it's all a bit of a blur for sure. The last 24 days have sort of just molded together into one massive day almost, it seems like. But I struggle. I go back and forth between, I can't believe it's been 24 days. And then I go, I still got 7 marathons left. That's it's still a big feat ahead of me. And so overall feeling really encouraged at this point. There were definitely some challenging moments mentally that I think were the biggest hurdle. But I've been sort of given a bit of a gift, and that's recovery. I can go to bed feeling pretty wrecked and wake up the next morning ready to go. So that's probably my biggest strength right now is just being able to just repeat, just every day go back to waking up in the morning, and it's making a conscious decision that I'm not going to let any of those sort of demons in for the day, and be able to push through. So feeling good.
Yeah, that's good. Can you walk me through like the step by step, like the routine you do like every day, what the day looks like? When in the day do you run? Do you have like a morning routine that you do before, whether it is for mental prep or physical prep? Like how are these days shaped?
Yeah,
if it's the same or
pretty
if it's
full
like,
on. It's got to be super precise. So sort of told family, friends, any sort of engagements that we have for Marie and myself, my partner Marie, that May is off. We have, everything's got to be to the minute in terms of sort of how things unfold. So typically wake up sometime around 5 in the morning, eat breakfast, kind of get ready for the day, make sure that all my stuff is charged, from phones to watches to if I want headphones that day. Everything's got to be kind of queued up and ready to go. I've got all my stuff, all my gear. We've created one of our rooms in our house is basically just my prep space. So I've got all my shirts lined up, all my shorts lined up. Everything's sort of there, ready to go, so that in the morning it's a quick grab, get some food in me, get as much sort of nutrition going as possible. Make sure that the house is, the household stuff is good to go. We've got 2 dogs and a whole house to kind of still look after while this is all going on. So there's obviously life that still needs to happen while this is all going on. So making sure that that's good, and then head out for the first 10, and that gets me to work. Get to work, change quickly, typically grab some food again, and then get started on my work day.
Okay. So you cut it into different. Just to get back to what do you eat the morning? Do you eat like a lot? Do you what's kind of like the breakfast for a day where you're gonna do this?
Yeah, I mean, I've never been a breakfast guy, so this month has been a challenge to sort of make that happen, and I'm just not hungry in the morning. So breakfast for me right now is just like whatever. Like I sort of meal prepped a whole bunch of like waffles and pancakes and French toast, just like anything that is desirable. I find with the kilometers that I'm putting in my appetite goes down actually. So there's quite a few days where I'm feeling nauseous and actually not really able to sort of want to have food or to want to sit down and eat. So it's about, you know, creating meals that you want to have, that things that are very desirable to you. So sitting down in the morning and just getting those calories in are really important.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you start the day with 10K, and then you go to work. What work do you do?
I own a business in town here called Summit Tiny Homes. So we manufacture.
Oh, okay, yeah. So
tiny
physical
homes.
work.
I'm mostly in the office, so it's
Okay.
not as physical as it once was, but a carpenter by sort of trade, and then sort of moved into more of an office management position within that.
What is how long does it usually take you to do this first 10 kilometers?
It's usually about an hour.
About an
Yeah,
hour. Then
give
you
or take.
work for until what, mid-afternoon or something like that?
Yeah, I work till about noon roughly,
Noon, okay.
and then change back into my running gear,
Yeah.
and then head home for lunch. So another
Okay.
10K there.
Oh, because you run to your workplace.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Smart. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of trying to kill two birds with one stone
Yeah.
there, and trying to make it as efficient as
Yeah.
possible. So
Okay.
run home at lunchtime.
Mm-hmm.
That gives me an opportunity to let the dogs out
Yeah.
and let them out for an hour. It gives me an opportunity to get some more food in me, some actual meals, and make sure that that nutrition is staying up, and then at that point spend about an hour at home and then run back to work. So
Okay.
so another 10K there.
Okay. So noon, you come back. So you come back home around like between like 1 and 2, something like that, to do
Yep.
everything you said, and then early afternoon you're gonna go for another 10K.
Yep. And that brings me back
To work, and you work again. Okay.
Yeah, change
Yeah.
back into my work clothes.
Okay.
Throw in a few more hours of work.
Okay.
And make sure everything's good in the office. And then sort of work on my final journey home, which is typically around 10, depending on what I got to finish up. If I have a few more kilometers to kind of make up for, then that's where that lands. So that's if everything runs perfectly smooth.
Yeah.
There's obviously been days where that hasn't been possible, and or my body's not cooperating quite as I would hope, and those segments take a little bit longer to get done, or something's going on at work and I have to stay late or something like that. But in a typical sort of work day, that's what things look like for me. So
I see. Did you face any like very unexpected thing that forced you to really change this in the day? Like you had to almost do like a 30K or like something where you couldn't run, by example, in the middle of the day, and had to do everything in the morning or everything at once in the night or something like this, or
Yeah. So there's obviously there's an event that we also run in May, which is kind of the main core component of this whole fundraiser, and it's called Move for Mom.
Yeah.
And it's a trail running event in Kalamalka Provincial Park, and it's open to the public to be able to sign up and come and run and participate in that. So there's a lot of organizing and lead up to that event, and that happened this year on May 11th. Typically happens on Mother's Day, but we decided to do it on the Saturday instead of the Sunday this year. So the lead up to that, there was definitely some days in there where I just had to go, I just have to get it done. And sometimes that was, I think there was one evening there where we were setting all the routes in Kalamalka Provincial Park for that event. So we're flagging all the routes in the park, and it was taking a little longer than I had hoped, and that was part of my 42 kilometer run. And looking at my watch, doing the math, going, I'm not going to be able to get this thing done. So ended up having to push really hard, and I ended up finishing it at like 11:59.
Oh wow!
So it's literally like wherever and whenever I can. So those are big days. Those are big pushes to get the kilometers done while doing a million other things during the day. So,
Right.
Yeah, there's been some days where it just has to get just pushed through and run the whole thing all at once. So.
Yeah. How do you even manage do you do any specific thing for like recovery? Do you have even the time to do like some things? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I try.
Yeah.
Time is the huge sort of constraint there, and so during the evenings, trying to get some stretching, some rolling, some obviously back on getting nutrition and food,
Yeah.
burning between 6,000 and 7,000 calories a day. So
Wow.
that's a lot to
Yeah.
maintain.
Yeah.
You don't want to be degrading on that, so you
Yeah.
want to be pushing that as close to that as possible, or more if you can. And that's a hard amount of food to take every day. So
Yeah.
that's a lot of that recovery, is just making sure that that your body and your mind is being looked after that
Yeah.
way. But doing some cold plunges.
Oh, you do cold plunges. Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, haven't worked up to actually chucking any ice in there yet. Just been doing the cold bath, but that's been helping a lot just to keep the inflammation down.
Yeah.
And then from there, it's about just relaxation and rest as well.
Yeah.
And then I have a really good physiotherapist as well as an RMT that
Nice.
I see both of them once a week at least.
Yeah.
There's been a couple of SOS calls that
Yeah.
they've
bet.
gotten that have been, sort of a panic. Can we fit you in, or can they fit me in, sort of on a whim. So,
Yeah.
but I've walked into both of those places pretty much fallen apart, and they've been able to sort of put me back together. So
Yeah.
it's important for
Nice.
sure.
In terms of hydration, is it something you closely look at as well, or is it just you just drink and
Yeah, I mean, as much as you can.
Yeah.
The electrolytes are probably the more
Mhm.
critical part. You can flush your body out pretty quickly with just drinking water. And there's at the start of the month, it was really hot. We had some temperatures up to
right?
30 degrees, which are pretty unexpected for May. So just getting used to that temperature change was pretty drastic. It's cooled back off now, which is nice, but
Yeah.
really watching it at sort of the first week there, that I was getting enough hydration, enough electrolyte, and sometimes that's hard to manage as well, and make sure that you're getting enough.
Yeah. How do you? What goes through your mind as you start the day? Do you? Because obviously, 42 kilometers a day, like it's a for 31 days, like it's a lot. Do you have any? How do you see? Do you see things like step by step, or do you see the whole day? Like, what's your approach as you start one day? Is it something that do you have like any specific like mental prep, or what goes through your mind? Is it one step after the other, or do you have the full day in mind? Like how's your perception of the thing? What you talked a little bit about the fact that everything is blending in, but as you get up and get on the day, like what goes through your mind as you perceive like what you have to do? If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I guess within the first probably 15 seconds that I wake up, that I'm awake in the morning, I sort of see it as there's two paths, and it happens every morning where I have to decide. I have to make that decision whether today is going to work or not. And if I start to believe that it's not, or if there's any doubt in my mind, at that moment in time, I will set myself up for either success or failure. And that sounds a bit ridiculous, but
no, it makes sense.
it's mental. It's
Yeah.
all like I've put in the work to ensure that the training has been consistent enough for me to be able to do this. There hasn't been a moment of doubt since this seed was planted in my mind that I was even thinking about doing this, that I'd be able to do it. but it has to have the mindset behind it. If you don't have that, if you let that fall apart, you have nothing at that point. So for me, it's been that, as well as support, honestly. Like, my partner she's incredible, and she writes me a letter every morning and leaves it on my gear. And honestly, like, that letter is probably the thing that makes that switch in the morning for me. And it's simple, right? She could tell me those things, and she tells me those things every day, but it's this little reminder of hope or positivity or what this is all for. And it's the first thing that I'm thinking about in the morning. So it's something that is really inspiring. It's something that's very simple that she probably doesn't even understand how much it actually does for me. But just those letters, without that, I don't know, like it'd be hard to do this by myself, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah, I love that. It reminds me little like post notes or things you would leave to someone. And do you read them as you get up or as you start? No, not as you start running, but like she leaves it somewhere where, as you prep yourself before starting the first run, you read. Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically like probably 15 minutes before I'm about to head out.
Yeah.
Open it up, read it, and just do a bit of reflection on that.
Yeah.
The mind is a powerful thing. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not saying anybody can do anything, because that's ridiculous. But if you decide to do something, if you decide that you want something in your life, or you want to change something about yourself, I'm not saying it's going to be easy. I'm not saying that's going to just fall on your lap. There's going to be some big challenges in front of you if you put some lofty goals out there. But the first step is to just decide that that's what you're going to do.
Yeah.
The mind is a powerful, powerful tool. It's probably the most powerful thing on the planet in terms of what actions can sort of, inspire it to sort of work towards something.
Yeah.
And that's what that little letter does for me every day, is it almost gives me this like layer of hope that, like, even if I am struggling, even if my body's like falling apart, she writes that letter like everything's gonna be fine, right? She reminds me of the importance of this and why I'm doing it, and yeah.
Yeah, I love that. That's really cool. It's a really cool thing.
Yeah.
Do you what in 1,000 kilometers, 24 days? Like, what has been the most challenging part so far?
I would say
Eating breakfast.
definitely eating breakfast. Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, like, to just not, it's kind of go back to answer your question previously as well, to not be overwhelmed
Yeah.
by it. That's been the most challenging thing. It's really easy. It was really easy at the start of it to be really motivated, and then all of a sudden feel this sort of overwhelming doom that, like, you signed up for this thing, you put it out into the universe, you got news articles about you, saying that you're going to do it. People are already congratulating you. Before I even started, people were like, that's amazing, like, congratulations, that's going to be incredible. I'm like, guys, I haven't done it yet. Like, we got to chill out for a minute. So that was really hard, was just to keep that out, to keep out the kind of that overwhelming pressure.
Yeah.
I mean, on day 2, I've run some 100-kilometer runs, but I've never run back to back to back. I can always go out for one day and just absolutely grind out 100 kilometers and put my body through whatever, and know that tomorrow morning I can just, watch TV all day and sit on the couch. But this is back to back to back for 31 days straight. So even day 2, that was uncharted territory for me. I've never run 2 marathons in a row.
Yeah.
Thinking back on it, I was like, I probably should have, at least stacked some. I had some really big weeks, some like 30-kilometer consecutive kind of days. But yeah, so from day 2, it was uncharted territory. So having confidence in myself that I could do it, meanwhile trying to keep the pressure out, while everyone's trying to sort of feed into it and trying to pump you up, and like being on global news about it and stuff like that, and where I'm like I don't have an option to not do this thing anymore. This is too far gone. So
did it pop in your mind though, like that maybe you were not capable of doing it? No,
and that's
probably one of the key.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of cliche, and it's actually I'm really happy that I did it. But I got a tattoo the night before I started this journey, and it's always been something that has inspired me. And it's just a saying called "burn the boats," and that's essentially like, don't leave a plan B. There is no option. Basically was obviously the during war or whatever, the Vikings would essentially light their boats on fire, so they had no option to retreat. At that point in time, when I decided to actually put this out there and decide to do this, I had to make sure that I was confident enough in myself that there was no plan B.
Right.
There's no option to not do it. So obviously things have worked in my favor. And I was saying to Marie the other day, like, I fell apart pretty bad last week. My body was struggling pretty bad to sort of make it through a couple of the runs. And that was the first time, I think it was on day 21 or 20. And that was the first time that I had really struggled, like really thought, geez, this is going to be really hard to finish. And I'm like, that happened on day 21. What if that happened on day 2 or 3? Like, really lucky that my body has held up. I got sick right before.
Right before the day 1, the start?
Yeah, and that happens a lot with long distance running, where you have this like really high intensity training schedule, and your adrenaline and everything is obviously, you're sort of in that fight or flight mode. And then as soon as you start to taper right before your big run or your race or whatever you're training for, your body thinks, okay, we're done. We can kind of let our guard down. And at that point in time, you go through a bit of, obviously, a phase where they call them the taper tantrum. So you're fighting your mind as well as your body is almost like shutting down, and your mind's saying to you like, okay, we're done. But you're also feeling super lazy, and you feel like you should be doing more, and your immune system's completely shot. So yeah, I got actually a little bit sick, and my body was like going through all these issues that I had like been training for the last like 250 days straight for this thing and never had any issues. And then all of a sudden the week before, I'm like fighting all these problems. So, yeah, there was definitely some moments there of like, oh man, this is going to be really challenging. So
let's talk about the training for just a minute. The training you've done for this. So you decided that you were gonna do this like almost a year ago, something like that. And so how goes from I'm planning this challenge, this event that I'm gonna do. How did you cut your year of training, and what was the specifically like the training, if you can share this for this?
It was almost a year where I decided that this was something that I was going to do, or something that I wanted to do. There was obviously a lot of logistical things to sort of work out. At the time, my business was also going through kind of a very volatile state. So that was number one, that I had to make sure that before I committed to anything, that was sorted out and things were manageable there. And then at that point in time, I didn't actually start really training for it up until it was on my birthday, I think in August, where I decided I better start, putting in some real thought into this and seeing if my body could sustain running every day. So I decided from that point that I was going to start running every single day, no matter what. And so I sort of have a bit of a running streak going right now. I actually don't even know what day I'm on right now with this, but before I started the marathons, I was, I think, about 250 days straight of running every day, no matter what. So there was days where I was, like super sick or really tired, or we went to Spain for a week and a half. So I did, I think I did a 5K in 5 different countries in 5 different airports.
Oh yeah.
Just trying to get it done and trying to keep that streak going. So that was part of the training, was just consistency. I knew I could run for a really long time, but each day I hadn't done that. So I knew I could run a really long time on one day. So just trying to do consistently, shorter runs every single day. So I started that, and then just started sort of ramping up those kilometers and adding to, starting off with 5K every day, and then bumping up to 7, and then 10 and 15. And I think at my highest, I did a week of 30-kilometer runs every day. So that gave me the confidence to be able to be like, okay, like I think I can. Another 12 kilometers on that is still a lot, but it's manageable at that point.
Were you doing 30 for every day for how long? What was like the longest streak?
It was about a week I did that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, pretty close. 12 kilometers is still a long ways to go. And anybody that's ran a marathon before, those last 2.2 kilometers are the longest 2.2 kilometers. Yeah. So those are the challenge every day, and the training has definitely helped. The consistency factor, I think, has helped me recover. It's sort of taught my body that every day we need to be kind of rested, recovered, and ready to go for the next day. So it's been important for sure.
Yeah. Have you been running since a long time? Like when did you start running? Regardless of no.
Yeah, no, I was never really a runner. I did run a little bit, mainly just because I felt like I had to do some cardio in my life, but never really had a passion for it until probably about 4 or 5 years ago. I started, and I did my first little 10K race or something. I think 5 years ago, and at that point in time, hadn't really done much of really anything in terms of long distance running until basically my mom passed away. And at that point in time, I started running quite a bit, and it was a really good tool for me to be able to grieve and to be able to process and understand kind of what my mind was going through during that process.
So this was the starting point of this whole project you're doing, right?
Yeah.
So which is not the same thing, but I lost one of my best friend from cancer as well, and I wanted to ask you, like you're saying, starting running help you with the process of grieving. Can you describe, like, how did it come to you? Was it initially just because you felt like you needed to move your body to process thing, or like how does like running impact your mind, and allow you to process or let emotions come up and deal with this? Was it just like did someone tell you like you should do this, or was it just like instinctively you started to do this and it helped you, or was it right away to create your initially the first name is Move for Mom, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How was like the exact starting point of starting running, and what it did to you?
Yeah, I think a lot of things all came together at one moment in time that inspired me to start running. Like I said, I'd done a little bit of it before. I knew how it felt. It feels good to go out for a run. It sometimes doesn't feel good while you're running, but when you finish, you're like, okay, like I'm glad. Like oftentimes I come home from a run and I struggle through it, or I struggle to get out. And when I'm home, jumping in the shower or whatever, I'm like, I'm so happy I did that. Like that just like cleared my head. It gave me this little endorphin kick that I needed or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a selfish thing a little bit, where it's obviously chemistry of the brain and what that gives you. And so I knew it felt good to be able to do that. So, I was also at the time when my mom passed away, I was in a pretty dark spot in my life. So I was, definitely depressed, unhealthy, just in terms of my body and my weight and my mind, and everything was just foggy and really shut down. So, went through a big transition at that point in my life as well. And then when my mom passed away, it was like just a bit of a reminder of how fragile this thing is, right? And I'm sure with your friend too that passed away, it's a really big reminder of like, this is it. Yeah. Like we got one chance at this thing. And if you're not living the best possible life that you can for yourself, and that doesn't necessarily mean you got to go, I think I said in the video, like you don't have to go save the world or do something crazy. It's, I mean, if it's to be a good parent to your kids, if it's to be an inspiration for somebody that listens to a podcast and goes, you know what, that was actually really cool. That was a really cool story. If you're a yoga instructor and you inspire somebody to come back to that class once a week and be able to change the way that their body moves, or to be able to inspire others to do certain things. It doesn't have to be crazy, but if you have that, I think that gives you a lot. So I was searching for a little bit of purpose there. I'd always, like, running has taught me that you also need to put in the work. I was a business owner. I've had 3 businesses prior to the business I'm in right now. And all of those I kind of jumped in without really doing much, kind of planning and prep. And they succeeded, but they were a struggle to work through. And so running has taught me, and in relationships and with friendships and with family and with everything else, running has taught me that you need to put in the work. If you want to do something, if you want to run a marathon, if that's your goal, which is a massive goal for a lot of people, you can't just, I mean, some people can just go and do it. Sure. Yeah. They're going to struggle through it. They're going to suffer. They're going to, for the next 2 weeks, they're not going to be able to move properly. But if you want to do it proper, and if you want to do it good, and if you want to get some results, you need to put in quite a bit of work in order for you to plan and prep that. The marathon itself isn't the hard part. It's the training leading up to that. Right. And so that's taught me a lot in terms of life, that at that moment in time when I lost my mom, I'm like, if I want to make a change, I need to start doing something to do that. I can't just expect results and not make any changes. So
How did that process happened in your mind? Because like this is, that's what I was kind of referring to at the beginning. This is when there's something like this that impacts you from the suffering it brings onto you, and this, and especially if you're saying you were into some kind of dark place as well at this moment. Like, how was the process, and how did you do, and how did it happen from having all these feelings into turning them into a project, into choosing to try to make something positive almost out of this? How was the process from the moment your mom passed to the moment you created Move for Mom? What was this timeline and the mental process through this?
Yeah. I would say from the point that things were sort of at I'm going to call it the low, or the point where things sort of reached that low, to the point where I started to feel like some progression forward, was probably about 6 months, I would say, of a timeline. And during that, like I said to you, a number of things happened. I started to run just little, 5K, 10K. And what that did was that gave me a process to be able to grieve. It also started to change my body, started to make me have some confidence, started to show myself that I can actually do some things and some progression forward, and started to see a physical change in my body as well as a mental change in terms of how I saw myself. It also sort of cleared this fog from my head a little bit, and I don't know why it did that, but it just sort of made me be able to see things for kind of what they were.
Right.
And I think the biggest thing with that is I've struggled with a lot of things as a kid in terms of self-confidence. And this gave me that sort of confidence back, and the ability for me to see that I could do something. I could actually like put my mind to something and do it. And then I had this desire, this feeling that I had an opportunity to give back to the community, to cancer care, to I just witnessed, the most devastating thing, your mom, going through just absolute hell. So this desire to want to help. And so at that point I was like, I'll put out a goal of $5,000 and I'll do some crazy run. I'm a mission type man. So even on my runs during the month here, if I have a mission to go do, if I have to run to work, or if I have to run to meet up with somebody or go to do something where I need to go from point A to point B, it's very easy for me to get that done. So with this, I was like, I'm going to run, let's run 100 kilometers. Let's do that. That sounds crazy. You hear about some people doing that, and lots of people have done it. And so it's possible. And that sounds cool. 100 kilometers, that's a lot. That's a lot of distance to cover. Let's try to raise $5,000, and we'll donate it to the hospital that saw my mom through kind of the last days of her life. So that gave me a purpose. That gave me confidence, purpose, results. Those are the three things that started to sort of happen all at the same time. And that lit my fire like crazy. And that, as soon as that was in motion, and again, I got kickback from people that you'd expect to support you. They were the first ones to be like, I don't think you should do this. Really? This is going to be too challenging. I don't think you're capable of this. And at that point in time, it happened a little bit as well with these marathons.
Mm.
That just solidified it for me. I was like, okay, like this is happening.
Yeah.
And that's a bit of that stubbornness on my end, but
So the first one was 2021. The first event you did
yes.
May 2021. The first 100 kilometers fundraiser you've done.
Yeah.
Okay. How did the first one go?
The first one, it went as good as it could have, I think. Started at midnight. I wasn't sure how long it was going to take me, so I wanted to make sure that I could actually complete it within the 24 hours on Mother's Day.
Yeah.
So basically started at midnight, ended up finishing, I think it took me 16 hours, which is not bad. Like that was definitely quicker than I thought it would. Fell apart really bad at like kilometer 30.
Oh yeah.
And had some really, really, really bad issues with keeping food down and nausea and stuff like that, which is not what you want to be having that early in a big run like that. The biggest thing is going to be nutrition in that. So came around at about 50 or 60 kilometers and was starting to get food back in me and stuff. So had a really good friend of mine run it with me, which was a huge help. He just sort of stepped up to the plate and was like, that sounds cool, I'll do that with you. So he ended up running that with me. And then that was right when Marie was kind of sort of stepping into my life. And honestly, again, right from day one, like couldn't have done that without her either. She set out every 10 kilometers, she had food and water and stuff stashed in some Ziploc bags. And she put glow sticks in them so that, you could see them along the trail and stuff. And so she was driving through the night down side roads and back roads and walking down trails and setting up these little aid stations for us. And then, just the support from family and stuff. It was full on COVID still at that point. So we couldn't have an event. We couldn't do anything that involved sort of gathering people together. So that was really hard too. Not that I need the accolades from everybody, but just do that thing kind of by yourself
no, for sure,
is a little weird too.
It's a long run.
Yeah.
For 16 hours. And so you finished the first one. You managed to raise the money, the goal you had money-wise. And so that's sort of like that first step, or like that first thing is done. Like how do you feel after that? Are you right away like, this is something that now I'm gonna do every year and I'm gonna make it grow, or like where you were not sure if it was like a one-time thing, or how did that go? Like right after this first event, where was your mind about all that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it started off as just a single event. It was just going to be something I was going to do once, and that was going to be it. That $5,000 goal turned out to be, I think the first year we raised $34,000. So it just blew my mind. I was like, okay, like people want to help, people want to support, people are inspired by this, people, see the benefit to supporting this project. So Marie, my partner, she was like, why don't we make this an actual event? Why don't we do this so that people can actually come and participate? Assuming that COVID obviously would be a different story and people could actually come and come to an event. So that's what we did. So the next year, I wanted to do the 100 kilometers again. And we also organized a trail running event so that people could come and participate. So same thing, started at midnight, ran through the night, and then basically till 8 o'clock in the morning, and then set up the trail run. And people could participate either at the event or virtually from anywhere in the world. So we had teams from Calgary, from Vancouver, from kind of all over Canada.
And it was 100 kilometers for everyone. Like you would want to party, or you can.
No, So you could do 5 kilometers, you could do 10 kilometers. We did it as a bit of a relay type event. So it wasn't a relay in the sense that you're like handing a baton off to somebody else.
Right.
It was like, how many kilometers could we accumulate on that day? We have a sponsorship that basically Bannister GM would match that kilometer tally for the whole day. They would give us $10 per kilometer run on that day. So that really inspired people to push themselves a little bit, to go like, yeah, I think I could run a 10K or a 20K or really whatever. You could set a goal for yourself.
Right.
And you knew that if you signed up for a 10K, if that cost you $75 to sign up, that $75, every penny of that went directly towards this project, as well as the 10 kilometers that you were running. Bannister GM would match that, $10. So there's another $100 there. And then we had a donation match on that as well. So, so your your $150 or $175 turned into $350 or, $400, or if you ran 100 kilometers or 50 kilometers, all of that just basically compiled into this big pot that eventually was the final donation amount. So, that year we ended up raising just over $50,000, and then did the exact same thing last year. And last year we raised $82,000.
Nice.
And this year we were like, we got to step it up. We got to do something a little bit bigger. The hospital approached us with a particular project.
Yeah.
So a piece of equipment that we could fundraise for that was cancer specific. It's used, or it will be used, by hundreds of people in our community every single year.
So this specific, I was going to ask, because it's called like the SEED project.
Yeah.
So can you say, so it's a specific piece of equipment for what purpose exactly? If you
Yeah, so the hospital's been trialing this. It's a magnetic seed that gets implanted into the breast tissue prior to surgery. Previous to this, they would insert a wire. And at that point in time, the wire would have to get inserted the day the surgery was happening. So the patient would have to come in that morning. They would get a wire inserted through radiology, would have to sort of image and get that wire placed in the exact right spot where the tumor site is. And then they would have to wait, 3 or 4 or 5 hours till surgery was ready to go. And at that point in time, if they bumped the wire, or if something, if they were moving and something happened, or that wire got pulled out a little bit, the exact spot where they would go in and actually remove the tissue would be the wrong spot. So that happened quite a bit. And so the accuracy rate of that surgery was not great. Then there was complications with obviously a wire hanging out of you for that long. So this new technology is a seed that gets implanted. It can get implanted up to 30 days before the surgery. So logistically for the hospital, it's, as you know, with the hospital, everything is reliant on other things. So radiology can actually do this 30 days prior to the actual surgery. And then the surgery gets scheduled. The patient comes in. They use a machine that basically gives them an exact picture of where that magnetic seed has been implanted. So the surgeons can then go in with imaging and be able to remove that tissue exactly where that seed has been placed. So the accuracy is much higher. There's very little complications. I know for me, if I had any type of cancer, to go in for surgery and then to go back in to make sure that they got it, and to hear that they didn't get it and there's just been cancer in my body after that surgery has happened, that'd be heartbreaking.
Yeah. No,
so
sure.
It's really they've been trialing this new technology. The company that has created this equipment has given the hospital 6 months to sort of trial it out. And the success rate has been phenomenal. So the hospital wants to keep it obviously there. The surgeons are pushing to keep it there. and which is why we're fundraising to keep this equipment there. So it could be funded through the government or through the ministry, but that process takes a long time. The surgeons don't want to give that equipment back and have to go back to the old way of doing it. So we stepped up and said if we could fundraise for it and get as close to that goal as possible, then they could keep that equipment here.
I see.
And utilize it until, sort of at that point, the government would sort of take over funding the operation of that equipment for future use. So
do you know, so how much have you raised so far total?
Yeah, I think today we're at, just over $36,000.
Okay.
Right now we have a donor that's going to match any donations coming in up until the start of June, up to $25,000. So if we can sort of maximize that, and that's going to get us pretty close to our $100,000 goal. Yeah.
Right. And yeah. So for the goal of this month was 100,000. And so far, even like through everything, whatever, how much have you raised throughout the years? Do you know?
Oh, like the grand total? Yeah. So we're in previous years we've raised $150,000 total. So this year, if we can do our $100,000 goal, then that would be bumping that up quite a bit. So
do you have any idea of the impact that, like, do you have like feedback and from like the hospital? Like, do you have any idea of the impact or specifically on what you've been able to help for with this money? Because it's kind of hard to like the number, I guess like any number, like it's kind of hard to see what it actually does.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you have like yourself like the knowledge of, or do they tell you like not necessarily very accurately, but do they tell you what you've been able to help for or that kind of thing, if that makes sense? So
yeah.
Just you.
Yeah, as far as I know, the previous funds haven't been actually allocated yet. So they're basically all of that money, as far as where we've directed it, is to go directly to the cancer center in Vernon. So within that cancer center, there's obviously there's a wide range of different type of equipment that they need, as well as just different resources and things that they need to fund that isn't that's over and above their sort of their funding cap. So so every penny stays in Vernon. It stays at the hospital. It stays directly for cancer care. This particular year, obviously, we're fundraising directly for this piece of equipment, but in previous years, that money will be allocated towards direct cancer care, benefiting people that live in Vernon, which is really cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Where did you grow up? Did you grow up in Vernon? Are you from here or?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Vernon.
Aye.
Moved away for a period of time, but born and raised here in Vernon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was your first, you talked about your teeny home business. Before that, what was the first career you got into?
Out of high school, I went right into carpentry. So I did a pre-apprenticeship for carpentry and sort of dove headfirst into that. And that treated me really well. Yeah. And at that point in time, started to do things, slowed right down into terms of, kind of residential building in the Okanagan here for a period of time, and moved into more commercial projects, went up north for a little while. And that was, again, one of those low moments of, I was on a bus back up to Fort McMurray, and I was like, this sucks. Like, I got to change something here. So ever since I was a teenager, I had this dream that I wanted to run or open a an outdoor sporting goods store, like climbing and kayaking and skiing and hiking and all that kind of stuff. So I remember writing it on the back of my workbook. That I can't remember the date, but by a certain date I would open this store. So that was basically the funding for that, was to go work up north, to go hammer it out up there for 6 or 8 months, to be able to get the money to be able to just kind of start this. And I was young, and I ended up blowing that money and not really starting that business with a whole lot. So, but it actually did quite well, and I ended up sort of selling it, and it transitioned into something else. But that was a bit of a wild card business for me. I'd never ran a business before. I never ran a retail store before. I never worked in a retail store before. So to just go and do that was a little bit of one of those things where, again, I didn't really do much planning and kind of jumped headfirst into it, and sort of paid the consequences of that, of not really having an idea of what I was doing. So it could have done a lot better. It did okay, but after that, sort of kind of went back to carpentry. Did renos and that sort of thing for a little while. Did some forest firefighting randomly for a summer, and then opened up a landscaping business for a period of time. So that one just sort of fell on my lap, and decided that it was something that I was going to do, and ended up selling that company as well, and then managed a mechanical plumbing and gas company for a little bit, and then started building tiny homes. So just a whirlwind of the whole tiny house thing was, it's an interesting business that it's
I feel like it got more and more popular with like how the real estate market kind of like exploded right in price since COVID. What kind of like teeny home are you doing? Like what, like all sizes, or like from really small to moderately small?
Yeah, I mean, they're all super small.
Yeah.
A lot of our clients are, a lot of it's for like really unique properties or really unique situations, like a fishing lodge or some vacation property that somebody owns on a mountainside somewhere, where logistically it'd be really challenging to build something on site. It gives us the opportunity to build it here in Vernon. It's on a chassis, so it's on a trailer, so it can be transported to them basically ready to go, all set up, and sort of turnkey type of situation. So that's a lot of what we're doing right now. There's the odd one that comes through that's just a regular person looking to downsize or get into their first home or something like that. But the way that the government has kind of the restrictions around what these are sort of categorized as makes it really challenging for them to fit in certain zoning and bylaws. So we're trying to work with the city of Vernon right now to figure out what that needs to look like for them, in order for them. They're desperately needing a solution to some housing that isn't necessarily, they call it affordable housing, but affordable housing is different for everybody, right? Everybody thinks, when they hear that word, they think low income, sort of like the cheapest housing option for people. And really what it is it could be you or I. Affordable housing for you or I is a lot different than it is for my parents' demographic or somebody else. So it could just be, you're a guy that works really hard, and you're in a world right now where it's very challenging for you to go out and buy a house that you can just have the simple necessities of maybe a little backyard, maybe a place that doesn't have mold or asbestos, or like, those are very like just rudimentary requests that you have right now, and they're unattainable for most working professionals in Vernon or in the Okanagan or basically throughout Canada. So working with the city right now to figure out, we're not trying to like do infill housing or trying to get the cheapest housing option out there for the lower income demographic. We're trying to get an option out there for people, working professionals that are even coming out of university going, I just went to school for 4 years and coming out into the job market and going, even at my top salary, I still can't afford to buy a house. Like that's crazy. So trying to figure out what solutions we can work with the city to figure out what needs to happen in order for them to have some regulation and some restrictions on some things, which is definitely needed.
Because it has to be, because the size impacts, like if it's considered as a real, like what is the issue with that? Is the size that makes them not consider the house as a real house?
Yeah, square
So-
footage is definitely one of the parameters. The second one is that, like, up until just this year, we've been basically manufacturing everything on a chassis. So it's basically like very similar to like a modular type home, obviously much more higher end than what you would sort of envision when you envision sort of a mobile or a modular home.
Yeah.
So you can't just throw those onto any lot in Vernon and, expect that to work. So, which is fair. I totally understand that. It affects property values around it, things like that. So, but what we need from the city is for them to go, these are what our sort of our newer requirements are, so that obviously the way that that's set up right now is to incentivize builders to build 3,000 square foot homes, which I don't think is what people really want to be in anymore. So, to be able to go, here's some property sizes or some property types. Let's maybe incentivize people to build smaller dwellings to bring, younger demographic into Vernon, to be able to motivate those people to pull a building permit. They're always, the city wants those permits coming through. They want new starts. If they put a little bit of even just marketing into figuring out an option, not just with me, but with other builders as well, and going, hey guys, like, let's try to incentivize, these smaller footprint homes, put them on a foundation, obviously get services run to them, and let's set some guidelines that are maybe outside the box a little bit of what we've done for the last 30 years.
Yeah.
I think Vernon would inspire a lot of younger people to come. It's a gorgeous area. There's mountain biking, there's trail running, there's 3 lakes basically within a 42.2 kilometer circle from each other.
Yeah.
The beautiful place.
Yeah.
There's
No,
people that come from all over the world to look at you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't choose Vernon. Vernon chose me.
Yeah.
But then I chose to stay because it's a really cool place. What do you, so just to come back a little bit to the, is it like a foundation, your like Move for Mom, or is it a foundation, or is it what form is this
Yeah. So it's like we're caught in the middle. We're sort of in the in-between stages of that. So
I was saying this just because what today do you have, like how do you envision the future of it? Like, do you have some new ideas already, or are you gonna stick to one event every year? How do you see it evolving right now? If you do, because sometimes you don't even necessarily have to, but if you have like a vision for the future of this, what would be some other things that you want to do with this, and other new goals, or if you look forward?
yeah,
Even though you're in the middle of a marathon every day right now.
yeah, that answer might change from now until sort of a month down the line, but
Yeah.
we did add another event last year, and we called it the Rad Dad 10K, and that was a 10-kilometer run that we did It's a one-off event that we did for a friend of ours whose dad was going through some pretty rapid cancer. And that was just a financial support and help for him while he was kind of going through all of his treatments and stuff. Couldn't be working during that time period. So we wanted to support him a little bit financially and help out with that. So we put together a little run for that. But the future plans for the project, yeah, it's a tough one. We're sort of going back and forth with that right now. Like I said, we're caught in the middle of like, right now we're not our own foundation. Basically how it works is if we get a check in the mail, if we fundraise for this particular project, everything is channeled through the Vernon Jubilee Hospital Foundation. So they're the recipients of that check or that money, which is good, which means that every dollar that is donated goes directly to them, which is so that there's no middlemen in that. For us, it's at the point right now where it does cost us quite a bit of money personally to sort of outlay, because we're not taking any resources in from donations. If there's expenses attached to running the event and t-shirts and all that kind of stuff, we have some sponsors for some of that stuff, but there's a lot of things like insurance for the event and all that kind of stuff that kind of comes out of pocket. So we're in like that crossroads of like, do we dive headfirst into creating our own foundation that the money channels through that to pay for some of those expenses and then gets dispersed out. So, or do we keep it small and kind of grassroots? It's also very time consuming. Yeah. And this year has been obviously very challenging for just managing the time and the energy going into it. So yeah, it's a really good question. I don't really have the answer. I would imagine, give me 2 months after this, the dust has settled from this, and I'll be like, all right, next year we're going bigger and better. But we also have a wedding to plan next year. So that's going to be the top of the priority for next summer. So
congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, I guess it's, and I mean, sometimes you never really know also really how a project is gonna turn out into something. And right now would be it's a tough position to really say you're thinking about your next run you're gonna run just after probably today.
Yep. Yeah,
So,
I gotta fit it in at some point.
How do you when you look at this past few years, and you talked a little bit about confidence, and probably it ties to like self-esteem as well. Did you ever thought you would be doing something like that would help raise money for a cause that is affecting a lot of people, and something with like that amount of people supporting you? Like if you just like shift out of yourself for a second and look at this, like how does it make you feel? How does it touch you? That you're the engine of something like this, and that you were able to turn something that happened to you into something that is positive, and that is actually helping for something that is touching so many people. And that how does that, do you think about this sometimes or no? Because I know sometimes it's hard when we're in the a lot of things like that, the thick of it, to just like pause and be like, fuck, like, with all humility, just to like congratulate your own self and be like, it's cool, right?
Yeah.
Do you?
It's hard to do.
It's hard to do, yeah.
It's really hard to do.
Yeah.
And that takes confidence to be able to do that, right?
Mm.
It's really hard to also put yourself out there. And I think a lot of people, especially in this day and age with social media and stuff, it's hard. It's a really hard thing to do. And it's a hard thing to talk about yourself.
Yeah.
Like I'm right now pretty active on social media with the run. And that's like, it's a grind for sure. It's not natural to me. But in order for you to get yourself out there, you have to be. So it's, to give yourself a pat on the back, to look at this from an outside perspective and go, wow, like, this is pretty cool. This year actually has been easier to do that than previous years. I think I just, looked at previous years like I just went out and did this thing that was hard for a day, and everyone's like, congratulations. And I'm kind of the face of the project, and that sometimes that can be really challenging because I'm like, guys, I'm not the only one here. Like, sure, you might see me out running every day in Vernon, but there's a lot of things going on in the background, whether it's like just the people donating. Those are really the people that are pushing this thing forward, the businesses that are cutting $10,000 checks. I mean, that's like, they obviously believe in this 100%. And then there's Marie. She's like, to put the weight of this on her for the month. And we've talked about it a lot, just in terms of our relationship and what this would look like. We live together. We have 2 dogs together. Like, the responsibilities of a home and what that looks like, as well as throwing on the organization of the main event, Move for Mom. This year we tacked on, like, we did a film tour as well. And we did something with Dolly at Noble there, a little yoga session. And all of those things all took organizing and, kind of creating and the background stuff with that. So it's hard to give myself a pat on the back and go, wow, like, you're doing such a great job. Look at all the money that you've raised. And to hear that all the time from people when you're out, even in social settings and stuff, I almost feel like a bit of an imposter when it comes to taking the credit for it. And that's, again, it's just confidence in me, as well as, like, I want people to understand how much actually goes on from my family as well. Like, the amount of sacrifice that they give up. It's really taken a community of people to pull this off. So I don't want to take all the credit for it. Obviously, I'm the grunt out there putting in the work day to day, but I wouldn't be able to do that. And actually, this has been a really good reflection this last few days of when I was having my issues with my body. And then also, like, the sponsors that have given me shoes and clothing to wear, technical gear to wear. Marie for stepping in and literally taking over any responsibility that I had for this entire month. My family for basically, supporting and cheering me on, as well as being like, all right, I guess we're not seeing you for the next month at family dinners and stuff like that. And then the community for supporting. It's taken everybody, and without even one of those people or one of those pieces, it would have made this so much harder. So that's a tough thing to, like, pull yourself out of it and go, good job, Oliver, like, you did great. Because it's not just me, it's so many different pieces. And but I guess I got to give myself a pat on the back at some point, maybe on day 31. We'll see.
I mean, you'll deserve it. I don't think giving yourself, like congratulating yourself or being proud of yourself would remove the fact that you have a whole support system that makes you
It's true.
work as well. It's just it's part of pieces of this whole thing, and each piece is important for the whole thing. I don't think we ever really do things like alone. There's always we're always consistently impacting each other, and sometimes we don't even realizing. But I don't think you're ever fully alone into doing something, even just like physically. We've been created, and then like everything like just like cascade, and like you were saying on the beginning of this video, you're talking about your mom at some point, and you say she is the sound or the light or that kind of thing. It made me think about something that have helped me as well in the process of grieving, and that I really love is when you carry with you character traits or a certain type of energy or certain type of behavior or certain things that were given to you, or you've been influenced by either a parent or a friend, and you then carry this and do things with like kind of a trait of how they are, how they would have said something, or even just the fact that you're doing this because of her, like it makes this relationship connected to it, and it makes her a part of it. So even if she didn't physically do something, like and you would have done it like alone per se, like that's like a way of we are never alone into doing things, because there's always something that's gonna make us do something. And we're social species. Like this is why I don't think we ever do something truly alone. And I like to think about this when we lose people, because I think losing people we love is probably one of the hardest thing we go through as humans. It's personal belief, but it's probably one of the hardest thing. And being able to stay connected and do things that help us honor these people, or carry little things from them, or character traits, or things that they would do, or a certain way they would see things, and just like transfer it into our life, like carrying, or like see it into like small things, like you're talking about in this at the beginning of this video. It's a really cool way to go through this, I think.
Yeah, I mean that's everything.
Yeah,
like that's. You nailed it. That's exactly. It's being able to tell her story without. It's not like I'm saying like, Mom, she was this, she did this. This is her personality. I think that's the most that I've gotten out of this. Is I think that's what's helped me the most in the grieving process. Is her story didn't end. It didn't stop when she stopped existing. And I've realized that very shortly after, when I kind of had that bit of a breakthrough moment after she passed away, it was like, it doesn't have to end here. I think that's a lot of the sad feeling that we get when somebody leaves, is they just stop. They stop existing. Their story is done. And the beauty in all of this is it doesn't end. Everything that I've been doing is telling her story. She taught me all of this. So, yeah, it's a powerful thing to go, even your friend, like you've learned things from people along the way, whether it be, if it's your mom, you've learned a lot from that person. The person has raised you. So you've learned how to interact. You've learned how to help, how to be sad, how to be happy, how to process emotions, what things are important. You've learned most of your values from that person. So this is an opportunity for me to go, hey, everybody, this is like mom taught me all this stuff. She taught me to never give up. She taught me that if I put my mind to something, that I were to follow it through and see it to the end, and to do hard things and to put yourself in uncomfortable situations. And sometimes it's going to suck, and sometimes it's going to feel great. And no matter what, see it through, do good, and some pretty basic values that she instilled in me that I get to relive that over and over again, and to show the world that this is who she taught me to be. So that's the biggest thing that I've gotten out of this whole thing is it's an opportunity for her to live on. And for anybody that loses somebody really important in their life, it's going to be really hard. But a friend of our family sent me a video message right before we started the marathons, and she was good friends with my mom. And she's had some losses in her life with cancer as well. And she sent me a message, and it stuck with me this whole month. And I think about it every day. And that's cancer is a brutal disease. It tears people apart. It's the single thing that this world probably fights with in terms of challenges and loss the most currently. And so it's a horrible disease. Cancer is brutal, but it's also beautiful. And when she said that, I was like, okay. But then she explained it and went, look at all the things that it inspires people to do. Look at all the things. She lost her father to cancer, and she explained that he was a bit of a stubborn, kind of grumpy guy, and on the last weeks of his life, it brought out the most humble, beautiful side of him that she had ever seen. For this, it's given me, look at this, like look at the last 4 years, like the amount of people that we've helped or inspire, or what it's even done for me personally. Cancer can also bring out the best in people. And without cancer, I wouldn't be where I am today. Wouldn't have learned the things that I've learned, and I definitely would not be the person that I am currently sitting in front of you right now. So anybody that's battling cancer, anybody that knows somebody that's battling cancer, anybody that's lost somebody to cancer, or anybody that's overcome cancer, look for the beauty in what that's put in front of you. And I know that's really easy for me to say right now and sitting in this chair in front of you, but if you look for the beauty in that, or create beauty out of something that's really hard, it can be a really powerful thing. So that sort of sat with me for this last month, and it's been a really powerful statement that she's traveling right now, but when she gets back, I'm going to remind her of how important that message was to me. So
yeah. Yeah, that's a cool. Well, it's tied to the reminder of like the finite aspect of life, right? It's not just cancer. That can be a lot of other things also. It's once we are faced with this thing that we're all gonna die, and that life can be fragile and brutal, and then it's this moment where you realize that you are like mortal, and life will end, and I think that's like the thing that can inspire a lot of things. Because today we live the modern life where we're not consistently in the. I mean, if we see our society right now, and everywhere in the world, obviously, but where you're not touched with, you're not trying to survive every day, right? We don't think constantly about maybe I'm gonna die today, or we're very for people who don't go through this thing are very. It's easier today to be more separated from that feeling of like I'm gonna die. I don't know when, and everything that reminds us this, like you said, like she was saying in this, I think in this message that it's quote unquote beautiful because it can wake us up to like I gotta do something with it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's this little reminder.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is heavy. It's a heavy reminder, but
Yeah, it is. Oh no, for sure. What would you just to and on what would you say? What would you say to what would you say to either you younger self or like younger people? If you would have one thing to say to inspire people to take action into trying to do something that is, like you said, like not just about themselves, but has a bigger impact and involve more people. What would be some kind of like either motivational or inspirational thing you would say if someone, if like a younger person would ask you like how like it's a lot of work, it's a lot of this, it's a lot of that, how do you do this?
Yeah, I guess if I could say one thing to kind of wrap it up would be, I think like my inspiration behind this wasn't necessarily about the money. It's not about, initially wasn't about the fundraising. It was about showing people a way to give back, obviously, but also that in order to be, like, you don't have to be this philanthropist that has all this money that, just disperses it out to different charities. It's not about money. It's about, if you want to help, if you want to create a positive impact for your community or for somebody in your life or for yourself, or if you want to give back, you don't need to have all these resources. This started off as an idea of me going on a run. And I'm not saying everybody can go run 100 kilometers either, but everybody has some sort of idea or skill or something that they can pull from, whether it helps one person, 10 people, 1,000 people. Like I said, whether it's being a better parent for their kids or better parent for their kids. Yeah. They can pull from something in their life to help change somebody else's life for the better. And it could start off with a simple idea. The reason why we initially called it the movement was because it was something that started off as this small little thought. And that thought developed into something that then was an idea, then a concept, then an action. And every little step along the way, it's grown exponentially bigger and bigger and bigger. And so if you have an idea, if you want to help, if you want to give back to your community or give back to a charity, start small. Just do something in a positive direction, and consistency will then, and your mind will pave the path for success. And you don't have to have millions of dollars. Like I said in the video, like go for a run. Think of something small and start there. And eventually you will find that, well, hopefully not running a marathon every day. I don't wish that upon a lot of people, but you'll find that after time and consistency, you'll have developed something that can be very powerful. So
Nice. I like that. Yeah.
Good.
So how can people support the project? right now? Do you have like links or things
Mhm.
that we can? Do they contact you or on the website, or how does that work?
Yeah, we have a website set up. It's www.themovementrun.com. And on that, you can click on donate and it'll send you to our donation page. We're working on, getting closer to our goal right now. And we have a funding match from a local philanthropist that has stepped up to the plate. So they're going to match any donations up to $25,000 for the next week. So, like I say to people, it's a big number. $100,000 is a lot of money, and I don't expect that to come from a few people. It's going to take a little bit from a lot of people, and we have a really great community here in Vernon that comes through when it's asked of that. So, a little bit goes a long ways. And if we can get a little bit from a lot of people, we'll definitely pull this thing off. So that's the main thing to take away from this is any little bit matters, and they can donate through the website and help support this project.
Nice. Do you have some run left today?
I do. Yeah, I'm only
okay.
I'm 18 kilometers in, so
okay, yeah.
I got some work ahead of me.
All right. Well, thank you. Thanks a lot for having taken the time to
Thank you.
share all this, and good luck for so how many 7 days left?
7
1
days.
week. 1 week. 1 week.
Next
away.
Friday we'll be running the final kilometer. So
Yeah. Cool.
Looking
Good.
forward to that feeling for sure.
Yeah. You'll take some time off running after that, probably.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Okay.
Thank
Well,
you.
Thank you.